Astral is on a projection level. So where do we live in is actually in sort of a projection, let's say. But the point of it is, it's not about what you might think. Because a 3D reality is not basing on what we see physically, it's rather what we feel and how we behave, how do we go. And this is a state of mind in which we don't feel a lot of things, and very often we just are driven much more by our minds rather than what we feel inside of us. A 4D level is a different level because it's actually a level in which you can travel through space and time already. Let's make that clear. You can do it in 4D. You can travel between different timelines depending on what state of consciousness you are at the moment, state of mind. How do you perceive different things? And it is very often for a lot of people who truly awake to do this, to simply be ascending a bit um, in that. It's painful process. It's dismantling kind of your belief system, but it is necessary for you to really reach this connection within yourself to who you truly are. And this is 5D. In 5 dimensions, as such of a consciousness, it is very different because you can really materialize things out of the blue. You can do it in a physical realm when you're in this state of mind. When this realm is in this consciousness, in this frequency and the vibrations. But more importantly, what is very necessary for us to believe in this, it is that we can actually move through space and time out of the blue. We focus on different things. We don't perceive guilt. We don't perceive shame and these illusionary feelings and emotions that we sometimes go through. We rather experience what's the lesson to what we've seen or what we've heard. Where do we have to put our focus on ourselves to evolve to a better being, a better state of mind? Why do we see this? Why are we involved in this? We have to process this to know what's important, to know what's necessary for ourselves, not only to evolve, but more importantly, to survive. We have to provide ourselves safety first, always, not our instincts. Because when we are safe, when we feel we are safe, we can do something good. When we don't feel safe, we will never do, or most frequently, we will never do something good out of it. So we have to be aware of what is happening around you, how to solve this. You just can't run from your feelings and your thoughts. And you have to understand that we're also connected between ourselves. Consciousness works like this, that we're connected, so everything that happens is some sort of a consequence of the past. For example, some individuals making certain decisions in the past to meet at a certain point. That's how the universe works. And it's inevitable. You cannot change this. But what you can do is you can change yourself and you can influence the consequences of the decisions. And that's what you have to know, that there's always other way. You can also create it in a very weird manner, but you can create it literally with your thoughts. That is also what it's all about, 5D. That is how you create. You have to believe in it whilst you create it and leave it alone. but you have to be very thoughtful and mindful of what you create, because you cannot create something that you don't want, because it might at first look very nice and kind to you when you create something with your thoughts, but when you look closer to what you created, it might have a disastrous consequence, not only on your life, but also an impact of how you perceive reality. That's more important for this. Sometimes something might look very good for you, like very familiar, you feel like very fine and cozy with some thoughts, with some things, but in reality, when you meet it, when you meet it for real, what will you see? Not something that you would like to know. At first, you might be looking very nice, like you go through a lot of these esoterical bullshit that's spread around, and you simply see, this is nice, this is nice, oh, this I don't like that much, this is okay, sometimes might be clear, and then you start to think like, why am I wasting so much time on discovering all this hidden, not hidden truth? In reality, it is quite obvious. When you just think of it, you can lose multiple years of your development on trying to figure out things that are very easy to figure out, actually. How does this work? Well, here's this. 3D is called so-called mental prison, which is when you don't perceive anything rather than what you're told to perceive and programmed violently to believe in right from your birth. And you are just simply made sure that you are under their guard, so when you are awakening and you're making serious threats and you're just like say self-aware of yourself, they try to hit points in you, points in you, points in you, just to make sure that you don't awake more. Because the more you're awakened, the more threat you give to them. And it's not necessarily the point of your spiritual evolution, but the point of it is, out of these multiple timelines of these people who have gone through a lot of very similar experiences, sometimes they tangle, right? So these people can meet and get serious knowledge and do something great and amazing and something out of this world, let's say. But they can do this. And the point of it is, when you know that, you start to realize that you have to show people empathy. And that's what you try to do, because you realize they don't know. So you try to make them aware or awake them. Sometimes it happens in a good way. Sometimes it doesn't change anything. Sometimes it goes in a very bad way. And my thought about that is that most of the times people simply are so much in their ego mindset and of emotions that they cannot step out of it. They cannot step out of this mindset. So being aware of that makes you think, okay, see you, take care of yourself, because you can do nothing about this thing. You have to sense this. This is unnecessary for that people. I can only waste my energy. That people needs help of somebody else, for example, and I can do nothing about this. It was his decision. It was his problem. You kind of start to realize that other people's problems are not necessarily your problems. It's not because you don't love them. It's because you really start to understand. You really start to understand that it's all connected. They are on their timeline. We have to make sure that they don't cross our boundaries, because these people are very good in crossing our boundaries unnecessarily from the point of thinking that they want to, but they do. and they try to make sure that you're safe and healthy. But in reality, are they healthy, safe? No, they are not. Most of the times, 90% of these times, you guys need to understand these people are not healthy at all. They're just mediocre at best. They tend to look healthy, but they don't. They're not healthy in that spiritual, mental level. And that's what is more important. What you create your illnesses, your sicknesses with your thoughts and your behaviors. It is a reflection of how you are actually the illness. So when the illness occurs, what happens is, first of all, don't look at the external things. Of course, if you have a very big headache or stomach, whatever, try to do something about this, because it can be very disorientating for our decisions. We can become angry, which is not necessarily nice for ourselves, because we don't want ourselves to be angry at us. So whatever, we should never spread this anger around us. But these illnesses are mostly preceded by negative thinking. What is negative thinking? Is thinking that everything is bad, that you cannot do change something about it, and then you, out of the blue, start to gain peace, more calm, and you then realize what it is mostly related to how we feel about something, how we feel about a certain situation. This is the illness, is the reaction. It shows us something deeper in ourselves and gives us sometimes a very good lesson of how to behave in certain situations and which step to take. What is our way, not what is other people's ways, because these people's ways might be good for them, but not necessarily they have to be for you, because you've chosen a different path. You create reality, not that it is prescribed. We create reality. So we as consciousness, we are also individual, just these consciousness, let's say souls, right? And we are also on this path, and we decide as consciousness, maybe in connection with higher self, whatever, that we go on a certain path. Because we, for example, feel something, or we can do something. Well, not necessarily for ourselves, but for others who don't know, because we might feel, we might see, and we might believe. We have to believe that we can do it, because if we don't believe, it's better that we don't do this. It is because if we don't believe that we can do this, it's very probable that we will never do this. So if you want to do something, you want to believe in it. It's kind of a different state. It changes the energy also, and you feel that very much. You can feel that changes the energy when you believe first, rather than you see and believe. Because when you believe, you got it. And it's a different mindset, because it just makes us feel like everything is very easy. So that we think of something and we create it, because we can actually train ourselves to think of something and create it instantly without any effort, so that we know the process, and it changes everything. And when you realize how different it is, you start to be more aware of your thoughts and the thoughts that are not yours. That's how it is, actually. You just don't need necessarily better whatever about this. This is that easy, let's say, but at the same time, it's quite frustrating for the beginners who don't understand that they have to believe in something. But you have to believe that you are wealthy. It's kind of like, let's say, some people might say schizophrenic, but it's just like, how would I feel being a rich man, for example? That's an example for you. Or how would I feel like that? It's kind of, you start to understand this, that you have to believe that you are such a person that is wealthy. Thank you so much for listening to that podcast. I'm hope and I'm sure it was great for you, and see you and hear you next time.